Bold, cheeky, flashy. Gallus. Happy 2025, everyone. We didn't have any podcasts last year saying goodbye 2024 or hello 2025. We had lots of plans for podcasts to say goodbye, and we had lots of plans for podcasts to say hello, but they all fell through due to the circumstances I'm going to get into in this episode as I address what the Gallus podcast is going to become in 2025, because I'll be honest, the Poor Wee podcast has been neglected for the better part of 3 months. I know it's heartbreaking, but time, you don't have a lot of time, and the time you do have, you got to put on the things that matter most. And I want to prioritise my filmmaking. Callum's going away to Canada, and Josh White wants to prioritise his photography. Uni and college taking up a lot of time, as well as just general life. Life moves on, and you lose that free time that you had. The Gallus podcast, when it launched, meant so much to me, because it's something I'd always wanted to do, and it meant so much to Josh as it built his confidence. It allowed him an up in a year that was otherwise full of downs. It kind of kickstarted the growth and change in Josh. That's the power of podcast. We have had so much fun talking absolute crap about every film you can possibly dream of, creating all these dumb ideas for the Gallus podcast main. And then late last year, cut, stop, radio silent from the podcast. I didn't even address the fact that it wasn't there, because I'll be honest, I didn't want to. I just didn't care about the podcast late last year. December, we recorded our Christmas episodes, we were content, and then Christmas would come and I would get horribly ill and be bedridden. During the entire run, when we were meant to record our year recap and our Happy New Year show, we were just going to sit and drink and talk like the birthday party. We had plans to do a kind of every month a video episode this year, toning it back, and with dumb storylines that we were going to involve in them. We were going to kill off Callum before we went to Canada at one point, but none of that's going to happen, because just throughout January, life changes. Your mental health is an important thing, and overworking yourself you can do it. And Josh White and I, we both kind of at the same period in time overworked ourselves so much that this podcast, our little baby, was the furthest thing from our mind. We would be busy focused on uni and college work, and of course losing Callum, so we've been putting all of our time with Callum here into making memories away from the camera. So whenever the three of us have time to be together, we're going to Glasgow, we're doing escape rooms, we're doing what we love. As much as we love this, it does have to be put on the back burner for a bit. The schedule was tough last year. We used to like making podcasts because we do it when we want. Now, especially December, November last year, it didn't so much become when we wanted, it became we needed to do it, and that's not fun. You want to make what you want to make, not because you have to make it, but because you want to make it. That's what creativity is, and that's what I love about the Gallus podcast. You look back at the earlier stuff, the RRR podcast, the Ayrshire Untolds, the Who the Fuck Are You series. These are the things that I wanted to do. A weekly podcast on the likes of Peril. Did I want to do it, or did I feel like I had to do it? You don't want to be in that situation with this kind of stuff. You don't want to be in that kind of situation. So that brings you to the question of, like, what are we doing going forward with the film and TV podcast? I'm making the decision to stop. The idea was for this year we were going to home back and just put special episodes up every month or so. Nah. It's now a time capsule. It is an archive of the past, and I love it. And in 10 years I'm going to listen back to them on Spotify and have so much fun. They will stay as they are. I kickstarted reading out all the ScotRail tours and putting them on its own separate podcast. I got halfway through that before I got horribly ill and just lost all interest in podcasting. Gallus podcast main, however, will continue, because I've always wanted a podcast. I've always wanted that kind of platform, and I do like making content for the podcast. But what's it going to be? It's going to be fun. That's it. At the end of last year, the artwork changed and became, for the first time in the Gallus podcast, an artwork and style that I really like. The new Gallus logo, the castle, the karate man, with this year logo from Michael in front of it, as well as the original file fonts and style of the artwork. I feel like I was going somewhere. I had lots of plans, but just no time to execute them because they all had deadlines. So going forward, the podcast isn't going to be a thing that releases something every month. It's not going to be series. It's not going to be, oh, this is what I'm doing and this is when I'll do it by, because that's pressure. And I put enough pressure on myself with films, and Josh puts enough pressure on himself with photos, that I think going forward what the Gallus podcast needs to be is for me and Josh to have and to fall back to if we need it. Me and Josh shouldn't sit down and record a podcast and feel like we have to do it. We should sit down and record a podcast because we want to do it. We want to talk about what we're talking about. Which is why going forward the Gallus podcast will be primarily video based episodes. They will be incredibly infrequent. There will be no real correlation between the episodes. That's how it's going to have to be for the next however long. My time last year, we made genuinely about 300 podcasts last year. I believe that sentence. That's not true. It's probably more accurately 150. We probably made about 150 podcasts last year. That's too many. It's too many for 3 men in a year to do. So what you can expect going forward is more elaborate stuff. I've got some stuff back catalogued. There's going to be, as I said, no frequency. There will be spells where something releases every week. There will be spells where nothing releases for a month, and I'm not going to answer to it. The podcast has no release schedule anymore. It has no theme of content. I will make what I want, when I want, in the podcast realm, and the Gallus podcast will be the outsource output for it. I really struggled at the end of last year and beginning of this year as well, because we did try our fucking hardest for the podcast. We tried our best. Genuinely on Hugmanay, we almost recorded a TV episode, a finale, but it wasn't worth the strain that it would have put on our bodies and minds at the time. The year's kicked off with a lot of change for myself, Josh White, for Callum, and some positive, some negative. I've not particularly had the most happy start to a year. Not going to go into any more details than that, but that just lowered morale in relation to the podcast. One day we sat down and recorded our Let's Go 2025 podcast. We had a few beers, we spoke to the camera, we laughed, we made jokes, we recapped 2024, we told stories from the year, we had a little awards ceremony at one point, and that corrupted. Of course it did. 2.5 hours of podcast just went and corrupted. That killed morale even further, to the degree that we're not going to do that. We're not going to look back at the Gallus podcast anymore. We're just going to look forward to the future. I don't know what the future is. I don't know when the next episode will be released. But what I do know is the Gallus podcast isn't done. It's just there. And if we ever want to use it, we will. And I hope you like what we throw on it.